Japan's landscapes are rich with forests, mountains, and wildlife. You'll find bears roaming the northern wilderness, wild boars foraging in the undergrowth, and even Japanese macaques bathing in hot springs. But there's one predator missing from this ecosystem: wolves. Centuries ago, Japan had its own native wolves, powerful hunters that roamed the dense forests and rugged highlands. But at some point in history, they simply vanished. Today, no howls echo through the mountains at night, and no wolf packs roam the countryside. So what happened? How did an apex predator, deeply woven into Japan's landscapes and culture, disappear? Was it disease, human hunting, or is there something more to the story? Japan was once home to not just one, but two distinct species of wolves, each uniquely adapted to the country's landscapes. Unlike the large and powerful wolves of North America and Europe, Japan's wolves were smaller, more elusive, and perfectly suited to their mountainous environment. Though they shared the land with humans for centuries, these animals would eventually disappear, leaving behind only myths and stories. The Honshu wolf, Canis lupus hodophylax, was the smallest known subspecies of the grey wolf. Standing only about 30 centimeters tall at the shoulder, it was closer in size to a modern fox or coyote, rather than the massive wolves of Siberia or Canada. The wolf thrived in Japan's dense forests, particularly on the islands of Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu. Its short legs and compact body allowed it to maneuver through steep, rocky terrain, making it a skilled predator of deer, wild boar, and small mammals. Some researchers even suggest it had a more solitary lifestyle, hunting alone or in small family groups instead of large packs. Further north, on the island of Hokkaido, lived a different type of wolf, the Hokkaido wolf, Canis lupus hatai. Unlike the Honshu wolf, this subspecies was larger and more closely related to the Siberian wolves of mainland Asia. It roamed the colder, harsher climates of Hokkaido, preying on large animals such as the Yezo deer. For centuries, the Ainu people of Hokkaido saw the wolf as a sacred animal, referring to it as Hokku, meaning divine beast. They viewed wolves not as enemies, but as powerful spirits of the natural world, deeply woven into their traditions and beliefs. Despite their differences, both species of Japanese wolves played a vital role in their ecosystems, keeping populations of prey animals in check. More than that, they held an important place in Japanese folklore. Unlike in Europe, where wolves were often portrayed as monsters in fairy tales, Japanese wolves had a more complex relationship with humans. Some villages worshipped them as protectors, believing they safeguarded travelers and kept deer and wild boars away from farmland. Farmers even left offerings at wolf shrines and prayed for their protection against pests. Many ancient Japanese legends speak of wolves guiding lost travelers safely through the mountains. But this reverence would not last forever. As Japan modernized, attitudes toward wolves began to shift. Within just a few short decades, both the Honshu wolf and Hokkaido wolf disappeared, wiped out by a combination of human activity, disease, and ecological collapse. As Japan rapidly industrialized during the Meiji Restoration, vast stretches of forest were cleared to make way for farms, railroads, and cities. This not only shrank the wolves' habitat, but also reduced their prey, forcing them into a desperate struggle for survival. Once abundant in the dense woodlands, wolves now found themselves pushed into isolated pockets, with fewer deer and wild boar to hunt. Starvation and competition for food made survival increasingly difficult. Then came an even deadlier threat: disease. Rabies and canine distemper, likely introduced through imported dogs, spread rapidly among the remaining wolf packs. Wolves, being social animals, were particularly vulnerable to these outbreaks. With no natural immunity, entire groups were wiped out, and the disease spread faster than their already declining numbers could recover. But even as nature weakened them, human intervention sealed their fate. Wolves had long been regarded as guardians of farmers, protecting fields from overgrazing herbivores. However, as agriculture expanded and livestock farming became more widespread, attitudes shifted. Wolves were no longer seen as allies but as pests and threats to livestock. Western influence introduced new ideas about predator control, and soon the government began offering bounties for dead wolves. With financial rewards in place, hunters, farmers, and trappers eagerly took up the task. Poisoned bait was scattered across forests, and firearms, newly introduced from the West, made hunting even easier. In a matter of decades, what had once been a keystone predator of Japan's wilderness was now on the verge of extermination. Unlike the slow decline seen in many extinct species, Japan's wolves were actively and systematically wiped out. By the early 20th century, wolves in Japan had become a rare sight. The last confirmed Honshu wolf was killed on January 23, 1905, in Nara Prefecture. Its body was preserved, a haunting relic of a species that had just been erased from existence. The Hokkaido wolf, meanwhile, had disappeared even earlier, with its last known sightings fading before the turn of the century. Even as the last wolves were killed, no efforts were made to protect them. Unlike in other parts of the world, where conservation movements sometimes arrived in time to save endangered predators, Japan's wolves were seen as nothing more than obstacles to progress. Their extinction was not mourned, at least not at first. It was only years later, when the effects of their loss began to reshape Japan's ecosystems, that people started to realize what had been lost. Despite their official extinction, stories of wolf-like creatures persist in Japan's most remote forests. The most intriguing reports come from mountain regions where wolves once lived. The Kii Peninsula, Chichibu Mountains, and deep forests of northern Honshu have all been hotspots for wolf sightings. Some locals claim to have seen small fox-like canines with long legs and bushy tails, resembling the Honshu wolf's description. Others speak of hearing howls echoing through valleys, sounds unlike those of known wild dogs. Even respected researchers have looked into these claims. In 1996, wildlife photographer Yoshinori Imaizumi captured images of an animal he believed to be a surviving Honshu wolf. While his photos were inconclusive, they reignited interest in the possibility that Japan's wolves may not be entirely gone. While no modern wolf has been confirmed, scientists have looked for their traces in DNA studies. The Shikoku and Kaiken, two native Japanese dog breeds, share behavioral and genetic similarities with wolves. Some researchers speculate that interbreeding between the last wolves and early domestic dogs may have allowed a small part of their lineage to survive. For over a century, Japan's forests have been without wolves, but some conservationists believe that bringing them back could restore balance to the ecosystem. Without natural predators, deer and wild boars have overrun forests, stripping entire mountainsides of vegetation. Farmers struggle with crop damage, and some regions have seen dramatic changes in biodiversity. Could wolves be the missing piece that restores balance, just as they did in Yellowstone National Park, where their reintroduction led to healthier forests and even changed the behavior of rivers? The ecological argument for reintroduction is strong. Wolves regulate prey populations, preventing overgrazing and promoting a more balanced ecosystem. In Yellowstone, for example, the return of wolves forced deer and elk to move more cautiously, reducing pressure on plant life and allowing forests to recover. Some scientists believe that if wolves were reintroduced to Japan, similar effects could occur, curbing the growing deer crisis and allowing damaged landscapes to heal naturally. However, the challenges of bringing wolves back to Japan are significant. One of the biggest obstacles is habitat loss. Since the wolves' extinction, Japan has undergone massive urbanization. Unlike Yellowstone, where vast wilderness areas remain untouched, Japan's remaining forests are fragmented, cut apart by roads, cities, and farmland. Wolves need large, interconnected territories to thrive, and modern Japan may no longer be able to support them in the way it once did. Even if wolves could physically survive in Japan, would people accept them? This is another major challenge. While some reintroductions around the world have been successful, they have also faced strong resistance from local communities. Farmers, who were once among the most vocal in eradicating wolves, would likely oppose their return. In Europe and North America, reintroduced wolves have often clashed with livestock farming, leading to ongoing conflicts with ranchers. Japan would likely face similar opposition, especially in rural areas where wolves were historically seen as threats to livestock. Because of these challenges, some researchers propose alternative solutions. One idea is using wolf hybrids or other predator species to fill the ecological role of wolves without reintroducing a fully wild population. Others suggest more aggressive hunting regulations and deer culling programs as a way to control prey numbers without bringing back wolves at all. While these strategies could help, they lack the efficiency and long-term impact of a true apex predator. Despite the difficulties, the idea of wolf reintroduction has not been entirely dismissed. Some environmental groups continue to explore the possibility, and public opinion on the issue is mixed. In a country where wolves still hold deep spiritual and cultural significance, their return could be seen as more than just an ecological effort. It could symbolize a step toward restoring Japan's lost natural heritage. So, could wolves ever return to Japan? The science suggests they could help repair ecosystems, but whether they should is a different question. Until an answer is found, Japan's forests will continue to echo with the silence of a predator that once defined its wilderness. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.